Welcome to the CBIA BizCast powered by Google. I'm Amanda Marlow. On this episode, we're sitting down with CBIA Associate HR Counsel Delmarina Lopez to dive into some of the commonly asked questions from HR professionals as they navigate Connecticut's complex employment laws. But before that conversation, we want to begin this episode with some of the top stories you may have missed. Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Commissioner Katie Dykes announced she's stepping down from her position in July. Dykes spent 8 years leading the agency, and she's certainly left her mark, overseeing a series of regulatory reforms, including replacing the outdated Transfer Act with the new release-based cleanup regulations. Governor Ned Lamont is expected to appoint Deep Deputy Commissioner Emma Semino as acting commissioner. The State Bond Commission approved a series of investments aimed at strengthening key issues for employers and the state's economic competitiveness. The funding is aimed at expanding child care capacity, creating a new graduate student loan program, and modernizing access to state services. CBIA's Danielle Cloud says the investments address persistent challenges tied to labor force participation, talent development, and access to care. Consumer goods giant Unilever unveiled plans to develop a new $270 million global innovation center in New Haven. The center will be a research and development hub for the company's personal care, beauty, and well-being business in the U.S. and globally. Unilever described the project as its largest U.S. R&D investment in 4 decades. The facility will replace the company's Trumbull campus. It is expected to open by spring 2029. Well, that's it for headlines. You can stay up to date on the latest business news by going to our website, cbia.com, and signing up for our newsletters. Let's turn now to an issue that's always top of mind for employers: navigating the state's complex workplace laws. To break down some of those most common questions that we hear from employers and HR professionals, we are joined by CBIA HR Counsel Delmarina Lopez. Delmarina, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Is this your first time on the BizCast?
It is the first time on the BizCast.
Well, we are very excited to have you. And we're going to talk about, hopefully answer some questions for employers that are top of mind heading into this time of year. I know that, the HR hotline is constantly flooded with calls at certain times of year. You seem to pick up a little bit more. What's it like kind of heading into the summer months?
There's a lot of questions on leaves, which actually happens throughout the entire year, but particularly in the summer. And we have a couple of members specifically who come around every year with the same questions because a lot of their employees are taking leaves around the same time. And
that poses a challenge for employers.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, the timing can be a little inconvenient for employers, and we get a lot of questions about the validity of these oftentimes FMLA types of leaves. And a question that we get pretty often is whether if an employee is taking the same exact timing in the summer on FMLA, whether that's allowable. And the answer is a little complex because oftentimes, although it's not the answer the employers want to hear, it is allowable.
So essentially, I have an employee who is not taking like their normal PTO, which they have a bank of. I'm applying for FMLA for the 3 weeks in July this year, and then I do it again the next year.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's actually for 12 weeks, right? So it's for the entirety of the summer even. It could be up to 12 weeks. And many times what's actually happening is these employees are coming to the employer with documentation, medical certification, whether it be from the country or outside of the country, because they have to take care of a loved one, oftentimes an aging parent or a parent who's ill. And there are questions about whether outside of the U.S. documentation is allowable, and the answer to that, we'll answer that right away, is yes. And then there are also questions about whether timing matters. And so the answer to that is not really, as long as you have documentation. We often find that it is true that sometimes people need to take care of their parents, and that may be in another country, and they need to fly for a chunk of time. For example, if your parent lives in a country that's a significant flight, and
Australia or
something. Exactly. You're not really going there for a week and then coming back. You're going there for chunks of time, or it may be a situation where like you and your siblings are taking care of your parents and you're splitting up time. But then there are also situations where employers feel that there is abuse of FMLA. And so in those moments, what employers can do, because you're not tied to having to provide this time if you feel it's fraudulent. So what you can do as an employer is ensure the validity of these documents. And if you do feel like there's fraud happening, then you can act on that. But if you don't think it's fraudulent and it's just inconvenient timing, unfortunately for the employer rather, that's just the way it is.
And so the rule is, though, you can only take a certain amount of weeks within the year cycle.
Yeah, so you can take up to 12 weeks unless it's for pregnancy. And if you are the birthing parents, then if there are complications before you give birth, you can have an additional 2 weeks. But other than that, it's up to 12 weeks.
So the clock resets at the beginning of the 12 weeks or at the end?
It depends. So it depends on your own policy. Sometimes the clock resets on January 1st. Sometimes it resets as you go, right? So let's say your leave started in July and then you take the 12 weeks and the next time you wouldn't be eligible to receive any FMLA until that July date. But if your policy is silent on it, then it's whatever is in the best interest of the employee. So that employee, let's say, took time off in July and then they came back and then come January, they want to take it again. If your policy doesn't say that they have to wait, then what would be in their best interest is for it to be a January 1st start date again. So they would be eligible for 12 weeks again.
Okay, so under the state FMLA, they can still be eligible, even though that was within like 6 months?
Yeah, so that's both under Connecticut and federal FMLA. And the reasons for eligibility vary slightly. So someone may be eligible for FMLA. Let's say you're an employer with 50 or more employees and someone needs to take time off to take care of their grandparent. Well, they would be eligible to do that under CTFMLA, but not under federal FMLA. And so theoretically, that employee would then also be eligible for leave that's allowable under federal FMLA if a need for that arises. So in those situations, that's why CBIA members call me and Diane, because it does get a little complex and you shouldn't have to figure that alone. You should figure that out alone. You should reach out to counsel and get some advice.
Tell me some of the other kind of leave questions that come up in the summer.
We get a lot of questions. Yeah, year round, really. Leave is something that we talk about year round with members because it can be very complex. Pregnancy leave, particularly, I think I spoke a little bit on it just a couple seconds ago, but it's something we get a lot of questions on because it's not just about the 12 weeks of FMLA, right? We also have CFIPA here in Connecticut, which provides much more broader protections for pregnant employees.
For those listeners who don't know what CFIPA is or the acronym, tell us what that means.
All of these acronyms, I feel like it's alphabet soup. CFIPA is the Connecticut Fair Employment and Practices Act. And so, for example, let's say you have an employee who it's month 2 of their pregnancy and they are having complications and they need to be out. That's all of that time is not going to count against them on FMLA, right? Like they're still going to be entitled to time for birthing and for bonding after, right? And so during that time, you can't just fire the employee. CFIPA will allow for them to be out, likely unpaid during that time, right? Because you don't get paid through Connecticut FMLA or federal FMLA or CFIPA. You get paid through Connecticut paid leave or a private product if that's what your business has. But they're still entitled to job protection during that time. You can't just fire employees. So that's when we get a lot of questions on. We actually recently had a webinar on it here at CBIA. It's one of the things that we make sure that we have webinars that provide information on commonly asked questions. And if you have questions about it and you didn't catch the webinar, feel free to call me or Diane. We're more than happy to answer questions.
What are some of the other things that you would say kind of come up most frequently? Is it just confusion because the laws keep changing?
Well, sometimes that is the case, right? And so, for example, when we talk about leaves, we also talk about paid sick leave. And paid sick leave has been evolving over the past couple of years. And as of January 1st of next year, it's going to be for all employers for 1 or more employees. And currently, we just had a bill that changed some things in terms of AI usage and a lot of other things. And that is so broad.
Is this time of year a time when employers are looking at their policy books and making adjustments, or what time of year is that most common?
I think employers are looking at their policies year round, right? And I think the best time to look at it is now because a lot of these changes in the laws are effective in October, or you have to start thinking effective January, right? And so right now, things can be, aside from leaves, a little slower for HR, and it's a really good time for them to dig into their policies, make sure that things are written in a way that is best suited for their business. And it's not all one size fits all. And so although we won't review an entire handbook here at CBIA, we're more than happy to help with a policy or two for our members, they can always reach out to Diane or myself, and we can walk them through what might be best practices and making sure some of the compliance components of that policy are in place.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Delmarina. We appreciated your time and insights and look forward to, connecting and engaging with you.
Thank you for having me, and I hope I am able to see some of our members at our upcoming webinar. We have a safety webinar coming up as well, talking about the top 10 OSHA violations, and then we have our webinar coming up on new changes to the Connecticut employment laws. So hope to see our members there.
Before we close out the episode, we want to bring you inside the minds of Connecticut's up-and-coming figures. We're talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who want to make a difference in their communities. They presented ideas for improving their communities as part of the CBIA Foundation's National Civics B Connecticut State Finals at the Bushnell in Hartford, June 6th. This year's finalists featured 5 students from across Connecticut: Sahana Gutta, an 8th grader from Bethel Middle School; Caden Hogan, a 6th grader from Scotts Ridge Middle School; Johnny Macias, a 6th grader from Children's Community School; Nina Mattamana, an 8th grader from Kingswood Oxford School; and Hanzala Schwab, an 8th grader from Chippens Hill Middle School. Take a listen.
Small businesses are the foundation of my town's identity. They create jobs, build relationships, and bring out our community's unique character. However, many small businesses struggle to reach customers as they lack proper resources, time, or visibility needed to market effectively. This leads to declining sales or even closures, which ultimately leads to a loss of important gathering spaces and pieces of our local culture. In order to tackle this problem, I propose creating a town-wide small business festival to increase visibility and bring our community together. We'll host the event on the Municipal Center lawn, where local businesses can set up booths to offer products and services. The festival includes activities such as raffles and community engagement opportunities to encourage attendance and make the event welcoming to all. In order to make this solution possible, I'll work closely with my town's first selectman and the Economic Development Department. This helps to ensure proper planning, funding, and permitting. Ultimately, this plan reflects that active citizenship is essential to a cohesive community. When people participate, collaborate, and take responsibility for improving their surroundings, they help build a more connected town.
Imagine a town of over 25,000 people, but only 9 residents actually helping to make decisions. Well, this is what happens in my town, Ridgefield, Connecticut, where on average, only fewer than 9 people typically attend regular town meetings, which leaves many voices not heard in decisions that affect the whole community. This is important because local government decides so many things, like how taxpayer money is spent, what issues get attention, and what projects move forward. My first solution is to advertise town meetings better. Many residents don't know when town meetings are happening, so the local newspaper, town website, and social media groups can advertise the town meetings. My second solution is to make meetings easier to attend. Busy work schedules and transportation issues prevent many people from showing up in person. But if digital meetings were allowed for many people, much more people would be able to attend. My third solution is for schools to teach about local government. Students can help get their parents involved and grow into informed active citizens. My fourth and last solution is local government should ask residents what issues matter most. A monthly poll could be introduced to figure out what issues the residents want to talk about.
A democracy works best when we work together and cooperate. My project, it relies on people coming together, talking about issues, raising awareness, and improving community involvement, all to solve problems. In Waterbury, Connecticut, my town, one of the biggest traveling hazards are the unsafe road conditions. To solve this problem, I have come up with 3 solutions: alerting the public, raising a GoFundMe to support and enhance the Department of Public Works, and make a petition about repairing road conditions. To alert the public, I'd be using 2 main ideas: posters and social media. Posters would warn drivers and pedestrians of damaged roads or dangerous roads up ahead. It would warn drivers to slow down because they may suffer a consequence. Furthermore, for social media, I'd be using it for the same purpose, using 2 main apps: TikTok and then Facebook. The second solution to this would be through a GoFundMe. This GoFundMe would be targeted, as I said at the start, to support the Department of Public Works in how they work. This is also to help show community support. I would be trying to raise money to provide free lunch once a week to people on road repair. The last solution would be through a petition. This petition would be created by the help of my friends. We would set up tables near public locations so we can get more people involved. And this would be an attempt to get local officials influenced and encouraged to attend to this issue more. We all have responsibilities, the citizen and the government. We should work together, sharing ideas, cooperating so we can find a solution together. Thank you.
I was shocked when I learned that Hartford's North End, a place I thought I knew, is a food desert where residents lack access to affordable, nutritious groceries, leading to poor health and economic inequality. Systemic barriers like supermarket redlining, commercial taxes, and high rent keep healthy grocery stores out of food deserts like the North End. To combat this, I'm advocating for a community-based grocery store model. To make this a reality, I will continue to partner with operators, research local barriers, and work with officials to propose incentives, such as low-cost loans and reduced rent. I'm already rallying support within the community, such as with the nonprofit Levo International. I plan to raise awareness with leaders in the community, such as my church, Asylum Hill Congregational Church, right here in Hartford. The truth is, no one can solve this alone, because true civic solutions require collaboration. I've reached out to officials in the past and will reach out again about funding for these incentives, because families can't pursue happiness without basic access to nutritious food. The founders envisioned a republic where citizens actively lift each other up. Guided by civic responsibility and a passion for something larger than myself, I'm starting locally here in Hartford to build a more healthy and equitable nation.
How would you ensure that Hartford residents help shape the solution rather than having other people choose for them?
Yeah, so what makes my idea so unique is that it's community-based. It focuses on partnerships and it's tailored to the community. So it's focused on long-term success, not just about opening a grocery store.
Hi, my name is Hanzala, and I wrote my essay about car dependency in Bristol, Connecticut, when I realized that I couldn't go to a lot of places because I didn't have anyone to get me there. Then I realized that this is a very big civic issue because transportation affects how much we can access jobs, services, and our community, which affects how much of a citizen we can be. To affect this, I decided to make two different parts. The first one is short term, where we would focus on getting funding from Connecticut's Department of Transportation, where they give out grants for things like safety improvements for all and transportation alternatives, which is the one we're focusing on to get more sidewalks and bike paths and public transportation so that people can access places without cars. Now everyone can go there regardless of if they have a car.
How would you measure success after 1 year of implementing some of your solutions to your problem?
I would measure success from how much people use sidewalks, bike paths, and public transportation, and how much they feel our situation has improved.
Mattamana took first place, earning a trip to the National Civics Bee in Washington, D.C. this fall. We wish her well. That's a wrap on this week's BizCast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. In the meantime, give us your feedback and let us know if there are any guests you'd like to hear from by emailing us at bizcast@cbia.com. Remember, you can listen, like, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. For a full list of episodes, head to cbia.com.